Geoholic.
I like where this is going.
Yeah,
I can't hear myself at all. It's okay. All right, let's go.
You ready?
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I still can't hear myself. Hopefully this is coming through.
It's just fine. But
welcome back to Geoholics, episode 218.
218.
As
believe it or not.
Sean likes to say.
Yeah.
Good
Moving
to
right
be
along.
back. Thanks for being here. All that fun stuff. Let's talk about last week real quick.
You want to?
That was a lot of freaking fun.
Yeah, that was actually one of the few. We do a lot of conference type shows, but that was one of the actual episodes in a remote location.
It's the first time we've done it from a picnic bench. I can assure you of that.
Bench, within about 500 feet of the ocean.
Yes. It was so much fun though. So if you haven't listened to last week's show yet, got to make sure you do that because it was awesome in so many different ways. We appreciate the Sam folks, believing in us and
yes, absolutely
rolling the dice, and we had a great time. I think we can say comfortably.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really cool.
So you got back okay?
Yeah, got back okay. Going to work after
sucks. Just say it. Going to work
after
sucks.
You've been hanging out at the beach for a week is, I mean, this is going to sound very privileged, but one of the hardest things that there is to do in the world.
Yeah. Were you looking for a new job in San Diego?
I mean, I always look for a new job when I'm in San Diego.
You're like, hon, we could pull this off.
We could totally do this. Yeah. It's always our conversation on the way back is, all right, how are we going to do this?
Yeah,
I can get a job here. You can figure out this. Here's where we could live. Mm-hmm. It would totally be fun. And then we get back into our groove, and then that's that. Yeah. How was your trip?
We had
you
a
were
great
at
trip.
The same time?
Yep. Kind of parlayed McKenna running in the rock and roll marathon.
Yeah, she finished. I saw the picture.
She did.
That was really cool.
She finished in the top 25%.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, and I knew this was going to happen because I'm going to take credit for this and say that she's a lot like me when it comes to things like this. You can argue, but I
don't have to say anything.
She just over prepares for everything, right?
Yeah.
And she has been, training for months. She was running 13 miles like it was nothing type thing, So, and I knew what was going to happen is she was going to do this, and she was going to have so much adrenaline, right? Because it's such a rush, is my understanding, doing stuff like that, and running through the neighborhoods and everybody's cheering for you, and she just ate that up. And she got done. She's like, I am not even tired. I could have kept going.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She was fresh when she was done.
That is the last thing that I would say. If in some alternative, universe, I actually did something like that.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm like, so are you going to do it again? She's like, I don't know if I'll do it again, but I'll do a marathon.
Wow.
Just to check the box.
She's
like, I loved it so much that I got to do it. So good for her. It was great.
Yeah. We're proud of her.
100%. Yep. Great time had by all for sure. I got a little sunburn.
Yeah.
Sun's a little bit different there. Even when it's behind the clouds, it's still.
That's the tricky part is you think that June gloom, as they call it, but you still get some UVs.
For sure. So that was great. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
First of all, let's start the fun out by you telling us about that opening number.
So that opening number is an original by our guest. Kent and I were chatting before. It's one of the very few times we've done this.
Very few times.
That was a song called "I'm Gone" by the very talented artist Brian Owens.
The one and only.
Yes, close to our hearts. Brian Owens, an American musician and songwriter born in El Paso, Texas. I'm Gone was written circa 2005. Music and lyrics by Brian, while then recording, production, and accompanying instrumentation was provided by Dominic Provenzano. It was recorded in Phoenix, right here in Phoenix, Arizona, where Brian continues to make classic American style music everyone can relate to. We hear he's a pretty nice guy as well. So it tells me that's a little cagey flavor there.
A little bit. Yeah, but you read it. That's the important
thing. That's what it counts.
Super cool. Yep, we're going to get to Brian's introduction here in just a minute, but we're excited to have him back. And it is National Safety Month, so this is very fitting to have Brian here.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we are in the David Evans and Associates studio this evening. A little bit about DEA. They join their clients to make a positive difference. DEA is a recognized leader in the design and management of complex transportation, land development, water resources, and energy projects nationwide. They combine the talents of engineers, surveyors, planners, how come we struggle with this? Hydrographers,
why don't you just take the word out next time?
Landscape architects, and natural resource scientists provide their clients access to a complete range of services. DEA is consistently ranked among Engineering News Record's top 100 peer design firms in the U.S. And among leaders in many of their local markets. To find out more, simply visit DEAINC.com.
Yeah, we appreciate their help with the studio.
Good people over there.
Really good folks.
Yeah, I would highly recommend visiting that website if you're interested to find out more.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the GeoMax Weekly Service Pro Tip. To find out more about GeoMax, go to geomax-positioning.com. Producer Sean, what do you have this week?
I like this guy.
I think we're going to have a little conversation after this.
Okay. This is a little different than we're used to. So here's a quote: "Life is not complex. We are complex. Life is simple, and the simple thing is the right thing." That was Oscar Wilde, Irish poet and playwright.
I came across that quote about 3 weeks ago, and I saved it on my desktop. So I kept forgetting to use it. So this week I'm like, I'm going to use that dang quote because I really like that quote a lot. It makes perfect sense in my mind. We complicate things.
There's the whole, keep it simple, stupid thing. And and especially in what we do, we get into a lot of problem solving, and usually the problem you have starts by being overcomplicated, and a lot of times, like you said, let's just simple it down. And then if it needs to go complicated, start from there, but not always start from a simple place.
So let me ask you a controversial question.
Oh boy.
Do you think this quote applies more to men or to women?
Geez.
Who do you think overcomplicates things more? It depends who you ask. If you ask a woman, they're going to say the man. If you ask the man, they're going to say the woman.
No, I would say both overcomplicate things. I think men tend to be easier to simplify it than women. I would say more willing. Yes. More willing. Yeah. If you came to me with this problem, I would say, you're really overcomplicating it. Just do this. And you would say, okay, that makes sense. If my wife came to me with that same problem, I would say, you're overcomplicating this. She's like, you're not listening to me. Yep.
I know how your wife feels, as a matter of fact. In this relationship, you are the overcomplicator. There's no doubt about that. All right. Next up, we are at the GeoSearch career. What is with my freaking reading?
I don't know, man.
GeoSearch Career Corner. To find out more about GeoSearch, go to geosearch.com. We're tag teaming these things lately. So,
you want to do the tag team again?
I will start here. This week, we are focused on an opportunity they have for a sales representative servicing the survey, construction, and AEC industries in Las Vegas, Nevada. Their client has been a provider of architectural, engineering, construction, and survey equipment and supplies since 1928.
They are an authorized dealer for numerous companies such as Leica Geosystems, Hewlett-Packard, Osei, Dietzgen, and more. I don't know who that last one was.
Sounds German.
Dietzgen. Dietzgen.
Yep. This position is responsible for exploring and providing solutions and services to the architectural, engineering, construction, survey equipment markets in the assigned territory.
Yeah, these solutions will be primarily focused on Leica Geosystems workflow, laser technologies products lines, along with a number of other mapping solutions, and a focus on unmanned aircraft, what we call drones, and their systems for survey and AEC.
Exciting. The successful candidate will need to have an active and collaborative approach to customer management, and he or she is expected to come up with creative ways to exceed sales targets and maximizing sales in the assigned region.
That's it. Always remember, the GeoSearch team is here to help. For more info, visit their website at geosearch.com. And as always, happy recruiting.
Love it. So much positive energy coming out of GeoSearch.
Right.
Sure. Love those guys and gals for that matter. All right. Next up, let's get our guest in here, sponsored this week, as usual, by Airworks. To find out more about Airworks, go to airworks.io. Just a little bit about Airworks before we move on. Their mission is to provide the data intelligence that powers the built world so they can support the development and construction that needs to happen to support our rapidly changing surroundings. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
We have, as mentioned previously, Brian Owens back with us.
The one and only.
For, I believe, the third time.
Returning champion.
Yep. I mean, we could have him on every month and I would be happy.
Yes, absolutely.
So much good content here. In the past episodes, got such great input. I mean, a lot of people loved what Brian had to say. So a little bit about Brian, in case you forgot. He's born in El Paso, Texas, raised in Silver City, New Mexico. Mm-hmm. He attended Western New Mexico University, Nashville State Tech, Central Texas College, and finished at Columbia Southern University with a BS in occupational safety and health.
Well educated.
So he went to like 4 colleges.
That means he's 4 times as smart as we are.
That's probably like 8 years.
Yes.
And I did 8 years at one college.
Before they politely ask you to not come anymore.
For an associate's degree. So he's a songwriter and an author in his free time. We'll find out more about that. He is the VP of Safety and Team Development for Busing Corp, where he oversees all the safety programs, sits as the chair of the Continual Improvement Committee, and assists with complex HR, compliance, personnel-related matters. I stole that from our last time. Hopefully that's all still current.
Well, I'm pretty sure he was still born in the same place.
Yeah. His passion is honor, people, family, music, and words. And we cannot fail to mention that you also were in the service for
5 years.
5 years. All right. Well, thank you for your service as well. Yeah.
Appreciate
Welcome back, Brian. Great to see you, man.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks.
Of course. I'm sure we have a lot of catching up to do, but before we do, let's get on with the Trimble Geospatial Icebreaker. And of course, to find out more about Trimble Geospatial, go to geospatial.trimble.com. They are dedicated to big thinking innovation together with their worldwide distributor partners. The Trimble Geospatial team is working with current and future generations of surveyors for a more sustainable future.
You read these words all the time.
I know. I think I'm taking it for granted that I just know it by heart.
Right.
All right. So here we go with the icebreaker, Brian. If you could instantly change one thing about the world, what would it be and why?
I think this will directly tie into my mantra, which will come up a little bit later. But having everybody understand the importance that what's said isn't half as important as what's heard. And it's something I call inverted communication, focusing more on what the other person's hearing as opposed to focusing so much on what we're saying, because that's not the same thing.
I love that. Could you take it one step further and say what's not as important? It's not as important as what is said, but what is done?
Sure. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. That's the next door.
There you go. There you go. I love that. That is awesome. So what's new with you since we saw you probably a year ago?
Oh, man.
Or so.
Well, my first fiction novel is out.
Exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's out.
And it's called?
It is called Atonement of the Fathers. It's available on Amazon. It's a what they call a neo-Western.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of a modern Western. I sprinkled in some lost treasure, military, as many cliches as I could put in one manuscript.
Yep. So what was the basis for the story? Can you share that a little bit?
Yeah, I was on a Cormac McCarthy kick. I had finished, reread No Country for Old Men and The Road and Blood Meridian, All the Pretty Horses. Mm-hmm. I had really just been going through his novels, and such a fantastic storyteller, and a lot of them set down here in the Southwest and into Mexico. And I got to thinking, New Mexico, where I grew up, is just loaded with so many fantastic stories.
Sure.
That are just sitting there, not even really being told. So I thought, I wonder what that would look like for somebody to tell one of those stories.
Right.
So I just kind of started daydreaming, and this idea came that snowballed into, kind of a plot. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to write this.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And I'm already part of a writer's group, for my my previous book.
Sure.
And I workshopped it with them, and they said, wow, I never would have thought this is your first fiction. You got to run with this. And using a lot of the feedback they gave me, it turned out okay.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
So how long does that process take to write a novel like that? Well, is it considered a novel?
Yeah. Okay. This one, the word count, it's usually roughly about 50,000 words or less is a novella. Anything north of 50 turns into a novel. So I made the cut by 6,000 or 7,000 words, but the actual writing took about 9 months. Of just writing the actual manuscript, and then another couple of months of editing, and then I ended up workshopping it, like I said, for another 6 or 7 months. So just north of 2 years, all in, from start to finish.
Yeah, labor of love, as they say, right?
It was. Yeah, I've already started the sequel, which will be a prequel. And I've already got the outline drafted for the third, so it's going to be a trilogy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So like the characters, did you draw them from like family members or friends or something like that?
Yeah.
Like if somebody reads it and they are, one of the characters in theory, are they like, Brian, that is me?
No, absolutely. The protagonist, who's an aging sheriff, small town county sheriff. I heavily pulled from my own dad. He was really the model for that. And what's funny, when we had the book release party at the house, people that had not met my dad but had read the book, as soon as they walked in, they said, "You are Brian's dad. You're exactly who I pictured." So
that's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool. Well, good for you. That's really exciting. On the safety side, let's revisit, first of all, a little bit about your personal journey as it pertains to safety and kind of what inspired you to become passionate, about safety, workplace safety specifically.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned earlier, I'm a veteran, and my first job out of the military, I went back to Silver City, big mining community, right? Big open pit copper mines. And my specialty in the military had been explosives. So I thought I would be a shoo-in for the blasting crew. So I went to, try my hand at the mine, ended up going into an operations job first. But my first day at MSHA, the president of operations had come in and was there telling us about having to just deliver the message to a family of that the husband, father had been killed that day at work. And there was about 30 of us in the room, and we watched a man, obviously with a lot of clout, just break down and cry right in front of us. And it landed pretty hard on me. And that never really left my mind. I spent probably about 2 years doing mining ops supervisory work, but I got approached one day by some of my supervisors who said, you kind of have a knack for this safety thing.
Right.
We've been watching the way you work with your crews, and your attention to detail is just off the charts. And I said, yeah, combat will do that to you.
Sure.
But they said, exactly. That's kind of what we're looking for. Would you mind doing some double duty there? And once I got a taste of the safety aspect, I knew I'd found what I wanted to do, and I've never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's interesting about your perspective when it comes to safety is it's not just about safety for you. It's like changing people's lives,
Well, to me, that is the answer to safety. I've always been one that has believed that culture, everything in the organization, not just safety, but success in every aspect is downstream of culture. So just by investing in the culture, the people, by effect, you end up with a healthier safety performance.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Airworks.
So professional. Born at MIT, inspired by the advances in geospatial data collection and the potential power of AI, Airworks was founded by David Morzanek and Adam Kurzanowski in August of 2017. Those are two fun guys right there.
Some of our two favorite people. Man, their complementary backgrounds in aerospace engineering, drones, and construction led to a combined desire to harness technology to automate a traditionally time-consuming process.
Their mission is to provide the data intelligence that powers the built world so we can support the development and construction that needs to happen to support a rapidly changing world.
Yeah, as uncontrolled urbanization and climate change disasters continue to threaten humanity, increasing the speed at which we can analyze the world around us will become critical to building faster and with intention for all.
Join them as they empower companies and governments to build a more livable world. Needless to say, innovation is in their DNA. To find out more, visit airworks.io. And the company, your full-time job, working at Busing, I mean, you work for a company that does some of the most dangerous things that anybody could do, right? So I have to imagine that the safety culture at Busing, which, you're a lot responsible for, is pretty robust.
Yeah. Again, it took a little bit of leverage, right? You're walking into a very established, very proud, heavy civil organization's been around since the mid 60s. And I'm coming in using words like culture and behavior. And, that's hard. But a lot of credit to the folks that gave me just a little bit of leash to play with. They're all, we're all in the same boat now. They get it. The light bulb's gone off. And, even some of the grittiest, of those folks there, they get it, and they're proud champions of it too.
How long have you been there now?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
So
just here on the 1st of June.
And I think when we first met, you were just a year or two in, or something like that. So, talk a little bit about that growth and how that's progressed since. I'm guessing the first year was, what the heck is this guy talking about? And then they start to buy in. So I'm guessing this is they've bought in. And talk a little bit about that progress.
Yeah, it was kind of a trifecta that I had going against me. I was coming out of the insurance world as being a consultant. So I was already kind of, one of those white collar outsider, why are we going to bring this guy into a construction company?
Yep.
I was coming into a culture that had been pretty heavily browbeaten by the safety culture before and that individual. And again, I'm bringing an approach that just sounds completely,
crazy
on Mars. So I had that going against me from the get-go. But like I said, in investing in taking the pieces of what had been a safety committee and turning that into a continual improvements committee, inviting everybody, from every aspect of the company to have a seat, and let's talk about the entire organization, not just safety.
Yeah.
Actually celebrating our veterans, bring in some personal aspect to that. Let's have a veterans wall, which we did.
Love it.
Again, doing these cool new safety shirts, making them camouflage. They're green. They're the safety green and orange, but they've got camouflage print, and creating an employee of the month program that really focuses on our core values and giving back to them. Just again, I haven't said one thing yet that really hits or says safety.
Sure.
It's cultural stuff.
Yep.
But by effect, everybody buys into that, and they stand a little taller. They invest a little deeper, and we're doing pretty good.
I remember you talked about, I think if I remember right, you did something with like a hard hat award of some sort, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yep. That's part of our, what we call Busing's Best, which is our employee of the month. But that is one of the things they get. It's a carbon fiber, black carbon fiber with ghosted in logos, Busing's Best. You can't buy it at the company store. We have them specially made for those employees that get nominated and win that award. They get a cash prize. Their picture goes up on the company website. Their name goes on a plaque that stays on a mantle in the training room. We really try to make it a big deal.
Yeah. Is safety like a generational thing? And where I'm going with this, and I'm thinking like, you've got these guys that have worked in the construction industry for 40 years, right? And then you've got the younger generation coming in. Is it harder to get the older generation to buy in to the safety culture versus the younger generation? Just because, and I see it with surveyors all the time, like they throw caution to the wind when they go out in the middle of an intersection to shoot a monument or something like that, just because they've been doing it for 20 years and, they've gotten very, very lucky. So they take it for granted a little bit.
I think that everyone thinks and behaves the way they do because of what I call in my first safety book, their behavior formula, which is exposure feeds influence. Influence becomes perception. Perception becomes thought. Thought becomes belief. And then your belief system having been created, now you go act that out in the form of your behavior. And so I think, there might have been some missing elements of the importance of safety in earlier generations. That behavior formula, right, wrong, or indifferent, they simply had been groomed to be hard workers and to ignore pain and to ignore comfort, or the need for comfort, and all of these things that we really try to focus on now. And so, yeah, they bring some of those elements with them, whereas these younger generations have been more exposed to some of those things. We kind of going back to that behavior formula thing, the more you understand that and provide an opposing or relieving perspective, that's what gets people kind of headed in a different direction. I use the analogy of an arrow mid-flight. Organizations inherit people with this entire behavior formula that has been developed over their entire life, like an arrow that's already been launched from an original source. You inherit that. The question becomes is, what do you as an organization do to be that gust of wind to cause that arrow to drift and, hit a target more befitting of the cultural aspects of the organization?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting, and Sean, you can speak to this a little bit more, after having Brian come to Alta and do presentations and, even after having him on the podcast and hearing different ideas and things like that, there were some pretty significant changes made at Alta.
Oh yeah. We've gone through
these conversations.
A pretty big conversion, and I don't want to puff up Brian's ego a little bit, but he was a big reason why we got down that path. And he's been a big help for us to change from what a lot of people say is, we're safety first, to actually putting it in place. And we actually have a culture here, and it is based around how we take care of our people and how our people take care of themselves and take care of each other, and have it actually be a focus for us where all of our employees actually believe it. And we're still on that path, but we've done a lot of different things as a company, and it's because of starting to have that perspective and just kind of changing how we talk about it. Every person at Alta has seen a video from Brian. That's part of our orientation. We now have a steering committee, similar to what Brian was talking about, that they tackle every initiative with the company, and it's not all safety, but it sends a different message when the steering committee says, here's our recommendation for vehicle safety. Here's what this policy should look like. And then as the leadership team, we say, great, let's do that. Boom, it goes out. This is from a representative from the whole company, and it's not top down. It's really an organic, and it really has changed us for the better. We're still along the journey, but it's been a big thing for our firm.
Yeah, it seems like once it gets to be part of the fabric of the culture, that's when you've turned the page and have the good momentum going forward, and people are buying in left and right, because it's not just one person talking about it. It's from day one.
Yeah, and it was our steering committee's recommendation that said, hey, the most powerful things we had is when Brian actually came in and, we brought everyone together and we talked about it. And that was the most impactful. So we said, that's what we're going to do again. If Brian can find some time in his busy schedule. Yeah, I mean, and there's one other question I have for you. You said your first book.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's a second one coming on the way here? What's going on? Why did you say first
related book?
I'm just you said first book. Right, most people don't say first book; they say my book. If there wasn't another one,
first book being Inversion and the Perspective-Based Safety Culture.
Find it on Amazon.
Yeah, it is also on Amazon. That one actually got a plug from Phoenix Magazine, if you could believe it, of all things. But that one's been around since 2019. But it goes a lot into these things I'm talking about.
Sure. What keeps you motivated as it pertains to safety? Let's go with that.
My motivation is it's people, right? And when you talk about safety, you're talking about people. When you're talking about an organization, you're talking about people. I'm doing another speaking engagement tomorrow. One of the aspects of that one that I'm going to focus on is what culture actually is. And I don't remember if I've used analogy in here before or not, but imagine an orchard, right? You picture an orchard. You're probably thinking of rows of symmetrical trees with some kind of produce or output, maybe some equipment, some harvesting equipment, maybe, the processing plant, maybe the farmhouse in the corner. The question becomes, if I took away the trees, do we still have an orchard or just the potential of one? I think I could make the argument that the idea of the orchard went away with the trees. And case in point, I'll just flip the analogy around. If I took away the stuff and put the trees back, do we have an orchard? And I I think we do. Similarly, I think organizations get it wrong or backwards, that they think that they are the organization, their core values, their vision, mission statement, the stuff. They think that is what is the culture.
Sure.
And in reality, it's the people. The people are what create the culture of the organization. Those other things just help groom it and maximize its potential, again, much like an orchard would.
Sure. How do you deal with the difficult employees that have a hard time buying into the safety culture?
Those are my favorite.
I mean, besides like disciplinary action, I mean, how do you turn the tide of that mindset?
Yeah, and that's not the way to go, right? I've always really enjoyed those the most. In fact, I think in my book I call them the hard cases. But the ones that are, stubborn and arms folded, and I don't get this, I don't believe this, I've got things to do. What I have always found with those are the most ready to believe. It just has to be put in a way, going back to my favorite word, perspective. It's got to be put in a way that hits home to them. And it may not be something that you even would remotely think would be the case. I've got a story about a guy that I completely changed his outlook with football. I just noticed he was wearing an NFL ball cap, and I had a little anecdote about that particular team. And when I spun the message around and put it in terms that he understood, the second I saw the smile come up, I knew I had reached him. And from that point on, he trusted me because he knew I spoke at least a piece of his language. And from that point on, he was eating out of my hand. So again, the ones that are the most resistant are my favorites, because those end up being the ones that become champions later on.
Yeah, it's just figuring out how to make that connection.
That's right.
Get on the same page.
Yep.
Because everybody's so different, And,
sure.
Yeah.
Going back to that behavior formula, it's whatever they're bringing with them, and whatever those things that really are the core of who they are as a person.
So talk about some of in the last few years, has there been any new challenges, or how has things gone? I mean, is it basically status quo in the last few years, or is there anything new that you've had to deal with?
Yeah. And, that's the beautiful thing about continual improvement, is you never really arrive anywhere. It's kind of impossible to have a status quo if you never really arrived. So I love that whole idea of just, okay, we're doing better. Great. Let's do better than that.
Right.
Every day becomes a new challenge. But yeah, there's always things, there's leadership development. I use this philosophical analogy of a relay race. If the objective of a relay race or of a relay team is to win the race, whose leg of the race is most important?
Yeah, there's some thought of yes. But is it the slowest, or is it the fat?
Yeah.
Well, which did you focus on the most?
Each one has their own job that they have to do. Probably their individual pace that they have to hit.
Okay.
In order to be a winning team.
And to drive that home, if leg 1 sets a world record, right, but leg 2 drops the baton, who fails?
The
whole team.
Yep.
Right. So kind of getting back to what you're saying about challenges, you can't read your press clippings too much, right? Because then you get tunnel vision on, I'm doing a good job, but you don't really, if you're taking that approach, you're not looking at where the failures are happening, which is what I've really tried to champion at Busing. And then, the other places I consult for is, we may be doing a good job here with leg 1 and maybe even leg 3, but we've got some challenges going on here. We're dropping the baton, so if that becomes leadership development, we're really knocking it out of the park with new hire orientation.
Right. Yeah.
But once they leave and get out there, if we have not developed our leaders, that next leg of the race, then what was the point of having a really good orientation?
Yeah.
So that's really what those challenges look like to me, is just finding out how to bolster and strengthen each leg of the race that's coming up.
Yeah, we found it was, okay, we finally have a good orientation where we're communicating what that message is. We communicate it very effectively on day 1. then what happens? Mm-hmm. And then who is actually making them believe that we're all actually in it? Okay, they got the message, but there is little follow-up on the accountability of was it actually heard, and how did they hear it, and what's their perspective on what they heard. So we're starting to get more of a check-in and more of a, okay, let's piggyback off of what you saw last week. Okay, you've been in the field for a week training. What are some of the, and adding that second component is what we found is, like I said, we kind of took a victory lap. Like, look, everyone has seen Brian's video and we're all on the same page. And then, someone gets into an accident or something, and like, okay, where did we go wrong? And that's kind of the self-reflection we went through.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. Couple things. First, talk about the importance of the onboarding process.
Oh, it is huge, right? Because again, going back to that behavior formula, you are legally, contractually accepting people the way they are when they show up to your company. That might be okay. They may be a perfect fit for your expectations on culture and safety, but it's not because of anything you did. They brought that with them. But then again, they may not be, and you just accepted them. So it's really important through orientation and onboarding to get them, indoctrinated really to the way things are with you and your organization. I use the idea of special forces and, or the elite groups like that by comparing who we are as an organization, that we are a specialty group. We do very special things that next to nobody can do. And we're the best that does it. We don't win every bid because we're not cheap, right? We do it. When you call us, it's because you want it done right the first time and you want to walk away believing that everything's okay. Or if you went with the other guy because they were the cheap option and you need somebody to fix it and make it right, you call us. They're just words, right? They're just words. But as I'm speaking to these new hires, new leaders, people that you're trying to understand the idea of who you are, you just sit there and watch the shoulders roll back and they sit up just a little taller. Like, wow. So you're basically saying I'm part of a special forces group. Yes. You made a good choice, whether you knew it or not. Welcome aboard. And it really is just being that gust of wind, giving them a dose of perspective and really helping them see this isn't just a job. You are important. You're special. You bring something to the table that's going to help us be better. And we want to invest in you just as much as you're investing in us.
I love the idea of approaching safety from a special forces perspective. Our good friend, Ben Shinneberry.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he works for a company called QK4, a survey company in Kentucky. And they kind of do the same thing. Like they have a challenge coin type thing, that they award guys with and stuff like that. And I mean, just some really cool things that are being done. And I do think that's like a really good tool to help people buy in. I like that perspective a lot.
Yeah, we've got challenge coins we give out to some folks that we call our CIC VIPs. So that continually improvement committee meeting, we bring in 2 employees from the field every month who, they fill out a questionnaire that's all about the culture, how the organization is respected in the community. Is this a place you'd recommend to your friends and family? It's all that type of stuff. And for coming in and just being honest with us and giving us some good raw feedback, they get a challenge coin for that too.
Yeah. Something to think about for your steering committee there.
I mean, all good stuff.
Are you taking notes over there?
I am. I'm
on the hard drive.
I'm recording this.
Oh, true. I guess you don't have to take notes. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, I mean, that kind of makes me think about something about, so safety is, it's a belief, it's a
value.
It's not something you can touch necessarily, a value. There you go. Does technology play a role at all?
So, yes. Everything I'm talking about is what is considered to be an organizational philosophy. Compare it to a healthy lifestyle. You can't go out to the store and buy a healthy lifestyle. That's not a thing. But you can get a gym membership. You can, change the way that you shop and the way you eat and your sleeping habits and things like that. It's similar. With an organizational philosophy that centers around, again, ours being perspective-based safety. That is the center core of what you are all committing to and believing in. The technology piece ends up being that additional supportive element that helps you do that. So from training and technology, and we're adding a camera system to our trucks to help protect our drivers.
Yep.
So we can capture the things that they're up against, and in the event that they're in a situation where they need to tell a story where words aren't going to get them there, the video will.
Yeah.
So that's an example of technology kind of assisting that.
And that's a great example, because I know there's a lot of companies. I mean, Alta is one of them that not that long ago installed cameras.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there's a lot of other survey companies specifically that are doing the same thing. And I see posts all the time, on social media, like guys just aren't buying into it. I mean, they look at it as like an invasion of their privacy type thing or whatever, versus what you just said. It's to protect them. Yeah. I think it's a really good point to circle back on.
Oh, and not only that, kind of getting back to the cultural thing, we have made this rollout of the camera system into an incentive program. So we are going to incentivize the drivers. The better you drive, you're going to get rewarded for that.
Sure.
Monetarily.
Sure.
And
there is a direct line. There is. That is one thing is very quantifiable.
It is. Absolutely.
Incidents per mile. When that goes down, there's money that you have that you're not giving away.
Exactly. Yeah. And, the whole idea of privacy, we work that into the incentive as well. The cab facing camera, you, based on your driving score, will be able to turn that off.
Yep.
You are showing that you are trustworthy and you're a great driver, and the analytical metrics prove it.
Sure.
So good job. And you get that turned off.
Yep.
It can come back on if things go the other way, because you have to have that, the other side of the coin. But by incentivizing the program, it lands differently.
Yeah, we tried a bunch of different ones, and that's some eye-opening stuff there. When you start looking at the reports on forward or even driver-facing, we piloted a couple. Like, it's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That I mean, you just cannot believe. Like, I cannot believe this is happening. But it's a tool, and you can use it. And then the guys that buy into it, they. And this is a question for Brian too, is it also helps. You mentioned when they can't put something into words. And I don't know about you, but I've now learned that usually that first call you have after an incident is like 30% accurate. Like, I mean, the guy is just, adrenaline's going. He's worried about, if he says something, and it just, I just don't, and I'm question for you is, how do you get over that? And is the cameras in an attempt to kind of take it out of the objectivity from our guy versus their guy, or that
Absolutely. With the addition of taking pictures of the scene. And, obviously in this case, we're talking about a traffic accident, but getting supervision and safety involved right away. We have another acronym, SAFE. It's actually a breakdown of what to do step by step after an accident. But because we've rolled that out, I've actually been able to help the company beat fraudulent claims against us simply because of the pictures they took. What was being alleged was impossible because of the photographic evidence.
Right.
So all of that stuff is very important, and you get people buying into it and knowing what to do along the way. Yeah, it all comes together to really make the organization just better overall.
Sure.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that, you mentioned incidents, I'll say accidents, because they do happen. Is the reason that accidents happen is because somebody has made a bad decision? In most cases.
Sometimes. So what I teach, and I call it the anatomy of an incident, if I were to set a cup on the edge of the table, is there a potential that cup could be knocked off and fall on the floor? Sure there is. It's not going to, not on its own, but the chance that it could is there. That's where accidents begin, is with the potential. If you can see the potential, you're already exposed to it. So those two usually come hand in hand, potential and exposure. If you haven't done anything with it by that point, it now slips into being a risk. So that risk is most often seen as, we've always done it that way. Nothing's ever happened before. Quit blowing it out of proportion.
Worst mindset possible, right?
Right. So if you don't do anything with the risk, it now slips into being a hazard. You now have blinders on it. You grow accustomed to it. You walk by it 5 times a day. Your supervisor doesn't seem to care, so why should you?
Sure.
The next step is the incident. Okay. So potential, exposure, risk, hazard. incident. That, in my opinion, now 17 years in safety, that breakdown happens every single time.
Yeah.
Every time we get called out to go do an investigation and find out what happened, I can trace back every single one of those steps.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing then, as soon as you see potential,
yes,
that is the point to address it at that point in time.
Yep.
Don't let it become a hazard.
That's right. I've broken it down as a visual into brackets. The potential and exposure, those usually go hand in hand. They happen almost simultaneously, but that's your best chance to completely eliminate the hazard from happening. We're obviously not going to catch everything there.
Yep.
There will be things that slip through, but thank goodness we've got one more chance, because if it slips into that risk hazard bracket, that's it. That's the last chance we have to be proactive. The next step is the incident.
Interesting.
I compare it to dominoes.
Sure.
Yeah. Every one of those dominoes,
it's a great comparison
that you can remove. You just removed a potential.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
Hey there, Geoholics. Let's talk about Bad Elf, one of our favorite friends of the program. Bad Elf's line of GNSS receivers empower GIS and survey professionals to collect high-accuracy field data using any phone, tablet, or laptop. Their products work with any location-based app running on iOS, Android, and Windows. All Bad Elf's Bluetooth receivers have integrated LCD screens and intuitive user interface to provide status information and perform standalone data collection when needed. Their flagship Bad Elf Flex GNS receiver is the first survey-grade receiver to support a flexible pay only when the accuracy you need daily token model that minimizes upfront costs and eliminates monthly subscriptions. Now your team can collect higher accuracy data when needed while staying within your budget. Over the years, they started working with more GIS and survey customers. Their feedback and requirements have driven their team to build the most powerful GNSS receivers that are also affordable, accurate, and intuitive. It is clearly engineering magic. To find out more, visit badelf.com.
So, like, what are besides getting through to people, what are some of the biggest challenges? Not that you experience, but other people in your position that are, trying to implement a safety culture.
It's really just exposure to a different way of thinking. And I was really no different. Early in my career in safety and even in my education, I was being spoon-fed compliance. Because my early safety career was in the mines. That was MSHA. Yep. So it was all avoidance of citations. Yep. It was trying to avoid catastrophic incidents. It was, it was all very heavy compliance, follow these rules or else type of, approach to safety. And I write about it again in the inversion book, but Heinrich's pyramid was the visual that was often being used. Which basically suggested that so many at-risk behaviors was the foundation of a pyramid that eventually culminated at the point of the pyramid with the catastrophe. And the more you focus at the at-risk behavior at the bottom, you systematically eliminate the chance for worse things to happen. And yes, conceptually that makes sense. But what I didn't get and what I kept circling back to was, but what are you doing to prevent it in the first place? Because if you're focusing at the at-risk behavior at the bottom, you're already too late. You're looking at behavior that was already created, and those are just the behaviors you're seeing. Yep. What about the ones that you're not even catching when you're doing your walkthroughs? What are you doing to actually be proactive? So that's what I kept coming back to. I couldn't get over the feeling that Heinrich's pyramid just got adopted as the whole thing, and I kept seeing it as half of the formula. Like that's what happens afterwards, or if you don't invest. So that's why I, conceptualized the idea of inversion, which was the inverted, completely proactive pyramid. Kind of an inverted mirror image of Heinrich's pyramid that was built on culture, and really headed towards zero, incidents, whereas his, was more focused on the catastrophe.
Sure.
So.
What do you do? I every company I've seen it, 100 times has these people that are like, all this safety bullshit. The only reason they're doing this is to cover their own ass, blah, blah, blah. How do you respond to those people? Because that's a very common mindset, unfortunately.
Yeah, no. So what I'll do, especially with our new hires, is I really focus on taking away the allure and the stigma of taking risks in the first place. I actually pull back the curtain and tell them exactly how it is. Mm-hmm. I will say, tell me what you think will happen on the other side of your risky behavior, your accident, because you're probably doing it in the spirit of good intentions. Mm-hmm. You're wanting to help out the boss who's stressed out. You want to help get the job done. You're really wanting to do something noble or honorable, but you're putting yourself in harm's way. Let's actually flesh that out and go all the way through that process. And we go through OSHA will be involved. There will be, lawsuits, not that you'll be around to see any of it.
Yep.
That the company's going to change policy. But I remind them all these roads converge at the same place. And it's that the rest of us are going right back to work. Mm-hmm. And that we will probably have you replaced before your funeral. Mm-hmm. And I let them know, look, I'm just being honest with you. I'm taking all the sugar away. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm treating you all like adults. And if nobody ever told you this in this way before, I'm glad I got to be the first, because this is how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And so when I circle back and remind them, now go back and remind me again why you would put any part of your livelihood on the line for this place when all it's going to amount to is a speed bump. And so what I did, I reversed it back around to where they sit there and go, yeah, why would I take a risk when it's not really going to amount to anything?
Right.
And then
that's awesome.
They walk away understanding, okay, they don't want me to take a risk, and now I get why. I'm not going to mess myself up for this place. They're just going to replace me. And yes, exactly. That's what I want them thinking.
Sure. Yeah. We'll probably replace you before your funeral was should set home a little bit.
It does.
Because then it's, okay, what am I really, and we do it when it comes to driving a lot of, like, you're getting paid by the hour. Like, why are you driving 92 miles an hour? Like, that makes
no sense.
Zero sense.
Yep. We're not asking you to do that.
Right.
No. And so you're doing it on your own accord. And I just don't see a benefit.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I remember you talked about a lot, even like when, we had our session or presentations with you, was like your internal compass or your moral or ethical compass. Mm-hmm. Talk about how that pertains to safety.
So if you're not invested in what you're doing, that means you're swayable, right? You can be convinced based on circumstances. Like, yeah, I know that that's what we're supposed to do, but
right.
If you don't have that just locked in compass where you can actually say, I don't care. Mm-hmm. I am not going to okay that. And I will put my name and, if necessary, my job on the line to say, we're not going to do that. And if you're going to do it, you're not going to do it on my watch. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that, then what are you even doing?
Yep.
Right. You can't be convinced by money, by status, by power, all these other things that, as a safety professional, you really are supposed to be disattached from. That's really the beauty of the position, is we're not really bound by those budgets and timelines and deadlines. And we're able to take those blinders off and just look at things purely objectively.
Sure.
And, try to do things the right way. And the old adage is that people in safety don't make money. We're straight overhead. But
depends how you look at that. I don't know about that.
My
I can
retort
see on the surface why it would look that way, though.
Yeah, my retort to that always is that may be true. Mm-hmm. But what we do is we help keep the money that we're making.
100%.
I've never had anybody come back on that.
Yeah, you can't argue with that response.
No,
and that's in a pretty unique place. There's not a lot of those positions that can say that.
Right. Yeah.
So being that it's National Safety Month, is there an uptick in your activity this month? I mean, not only at work, but on the consulting side of things as well. I mean, it's a shame that, we pick 1 month to focus on safety when it should be every month, every day, every minute. But
which is more our approach.
Yeah.
We take it as an opportunity to go back and say thank you to the employees. It's less about, hey, we're supposed to be doing this, so here's the message we're supposed to do because everybody else is doing it. Mm-hmm. It really gives us a chance to just go back and say, hey guys, you're doing a great job.
Sure.
Here's some stuff. Yeah. And while we've got you, we're going to say a few things. But what has been an uptick is safety day, safety week, month messages from general contractors and some of the other projects we're on. So sitting in on those, listening in. And unfortunately, I can't say that. I think I've probably been to 4 in the last, weeks, month or so. I can't remember one of them addressing family or the personal aspect of safety. It's all OSHA. I could sit there and just check off, how many times that gets mentioned, or that, rules, policies. It's the way it is.
Compliance.
But the personal aspect of why we need to stay safe, I haven't heard it at all.
Wow.
And
interesting.
And that's disconcerting, because that's our entire approach. In fact, I rarely even get to the point of compliance. That's kind of cool, is because we are so focused on just going above and beyond and doing things just because it's the right thing to do. And we want to have that high echelon, type of image and reputation. Compliance ends up kind of happening naturally.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I want to circle back on technology real quick, because everyone's got a freaking cell phone, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest distraction that's come along in our lifetime, for sure. How do you manage that? I mean, there's got to be, a part of the safety culture that addresses cell phone use, whether it be driving, walking on a site, looking at your phone, you fall in a hole, whatever. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong.
Or on the job.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So one of the exercises we do in orientation is I invite the attendees to recall a time in their past where they cut a corner, took a risk, did something silly that probably should have got them or messed them up really bad.
Yep.
And, I say, maybe your example is at work, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's as simple as, and I pull my phone out of my pocket, being on this stupid thing while you're driving.
Yep.
You look up and you're damn near ready to plow into somebody. All you can do is swerve. That lane you swerved into, why that 18-wheeler in that lane is 20 feet further back and you got to slide into that gap, I don't know, but that's the way it went.
Yep.
But anyway, I have them visualize.
Throw my phone on the other seat and get that thing away. I don't even want to.
Yeah. So I have them visualize this scenario that they were actually in, something that they lived through.
Sure.
And as they're visualizing it, I remind them, okay, now that you're let's freeze it in time, or let's rewind back in time about 15 seconds and freeze that in time so we can focus on everything. And then I say, now focus on the distractors, the prompters, the things that are actually moving you into position to make this choice that's coming. And they're there. If we're at work, it's a boss, budget, timeline, like I said. Or maybe it's the where are you texts, the ball game's coming on, the beer's just cold enough, where you at? Whatever the distractions are, they're there. And I have them focus on that. Then I say, now turn around. And I want you to notice that the most precious person in the world to you, whoever that is right there watching you, getting ready to watch you do it.
Yep.
Now trade places with them. Now they are in the position to do the thing, whatever it is, and you just joined everything that's frozen. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to sit there and watch. But it's okay, because they are now offering up the exact same excuse, the same reason, the same justification that you actually gave. Yep. How does that land on you? And you just watch it happen. That light bulb is like, no, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I've actually had people break down and cry and say, nope, but that's how you get through to something as simple as a cell phone.
Sure.
With that imagery. Yep. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. There's no reason why I would ever allow my loved one to go through that. I'm setting a bad example.
Sure.
Yeah.
Being selfish.
Yep.
You mentioned leadership development, and that's something we've been working on. And you mentioned it in the capacity of, maybe this is something we didn't focus on as much. Is that something that is becoming more of a focus recently in the last few years with you in the company? Definitely.
There was really no formal leadership development program. There were people that got cycled out to go through certain courses and whatnot, but we've actually developed a pretty good program, really on the idea of, I comically, I kind of always compare it to the old Trivial Pursuit game, where you have to work your way around the board and get your piece of entertainment and history and science or whatever. Similarly, people in leadership roles, unless they're given slices of pie to make them successful, right? That individual may be able to, bring in a job on time, and they have the keys to the city. They're pretty well known. but what makes that person fit to lead people?
Right.
You know, what about things that they say that could get them in trouble legally? You know, ethics, HIPAA, you know, these are all things that are those slices of pie. So by putting it in that kind of, you know, context, what we've tried to do is build a leadership development program to feed our leaders pie, kind of based on a college degree map. You know, you have to go, no matter where you are in the organization, you go through these core classes. Every leader in the organization needs these set of core classes. Then depending on what your craft is and what you're doing for the company, these will be your degree specific classes, right? And then you can take some electives along the way. But the idea is once you graduate, you are a more well-rounded leader with the things that you need to be successful. So that's kind of the model that we have focused on. So instead of giving them things that they don't really need, we're giving them the things that they're missing.
Sure. That's well said.
Man, I love so much about this conversation, but I have one more question. So a safety culture, does it have to come from the top down, or can it also come from the bottom up?
I think it happens organically. It kind of, again, going back to that orchard thing, you know, an orchard on its own is going to just do its own thing. It's not going to be as healthy as it might be if it's being managed and groomed and watered and, you know, nurtured properly. That's how you maximize the output of that crop. But that's where your management involvement comes in, right? That you're bringing these ideas, these, you know, things like grafting, you know, bringing in things that don't belong, and now it belongs. And now this tree does things it didn't know it could do.
Sure.
I love the idea of, you know, the California redwoods, tallest growing organisms on Earth. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know how deep their root structure is?
I don't.
Isn't it really shallow, and it kind of goes out instead of down?
6 to 12 feet. That's it.
Yeah.
And those trees are how tall? A couple hundred feet?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the reason why is, Sean, like you were saying, those roots intertwine with the other trees around them, and they all hold each other up. That is what culture is, right? So yeah, you do need the top down stuff, because that's how you keep it managed and you are maximizing output. But you know, what's in the soil, what's watering them, you know, all of that's happening in the middle or just on its own. Yeah. So I think it just happens organically. It's just how much you get out of it is the, you know, what needs to be managed.
I love that. So many good analogies.
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
they're so relatable.
He does this
That's
so
the thing.
well. You know, you just start thinking, and he puts your head in a place, and you're like, "Oh man, that makes so much sense." I mean, you know,
well, that's
one of the passions is talking, and we can tell.
That's the
words.
The
words.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Words are currency.
Yep.
So what about the future? What about looking ahead? What are some, you know, we talked about challenges a couple times. What do you see on the horizon that you are thinking about, or you know what's going to be coming up, or that you're not doing? What do you see out there?
Opportunity. Nothing but opportunity.
Yeah.
I take the challenges as they come. You know, I will never say I've seen it all, because I haven't. You know, there are still things that I see like, wow, haven't seen that one yet, but now I have seen that one. So, you know, now we can kind of adapt to that. But I guess kind of going back to the Army, it was just kind of how the mindset was there was not an impossible situation. In fact, there's a saying out on the internet that's attributed to me, even though I didn't actually say it, that if it ever gets to the point where it's hopeless and nothing more can be done, you've overlooked something. And I still believe that to be true. So what I love about that in safety is, here's the rules, here's compliance, and I don't see how we're going to get through this. I don't know how to do this legally. What I love is the creative middle ground on how to keep somebody safe and how to do it legally. I love that, because that's innovation, right? That's innovation and creativity.
Safety innovation. I love it.
Yeah. And being a visionary on how to follow the intent of the law and actually keep people safe. So I love that.
Is there more or less safety concerns and issues with driverless heavy equipment.
Yeah.
Or operatorless heavy equiment.
Autonomous vehicles of all type.
Yeah, you're gonna have driverless scrapers out there running around, and where's because I know you've thought about it, and I know it's come up.
That might be where I hang up the spurs. I can't speak philosophy to a machine with no operator in it.
Yeah. Hey, you're still gonna need somebody to dig the holes.
I mean,
it's true.
But are they digging them at the office with a piece of equipment and they're just doing the joystick? I mean, we've all seen that. And I mean, I know there's inherent issues with all of it. And eventually that's where it's going to go. That's what people say, if everybody had autonomous vehicles, there would be less accidents because you don't tailgate somebody when the computer says, okay, we're all just going to drive exactly the speed limit. Well, there's no traffic jams. You just move through.
There's no creativity in that.
Yeah, and you probably will have a lot of construction defects when there's nobody like actually looking at what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, I thought about that as well. I mean, that's going to be, well, like Brian said, that's going to open up a whole nother realm of safety concerns.
Yeah, right now it's a novelty, right? But it's usually that's how those things start. Sure. It's a novelty. That would be funny. And then all of a sudden you're driving in downtown Phoenix and you're like, wait a second, there's no driver in that car there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy for sure. Couple things before I let you get out of here. So you have your full-time job at Busing.
Yes.
You have your consultant side of things.
What's that consultant?
Perspective Safety Consulting.
Okay. And that website
is perspectivesafety.com.
Oh, I like it. Writing books, writing music. You got a lot going on. First of all, the name of the two books, and I know they're both available on Amazon. The safety-related one is?
Inversion and the Perspective-Based Safety Culture.
Yep. And then the novel?
Atonement of the Fathers.
Both are must-buys.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make them.
I want to check out the
number one sellers
here.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Be pretty cool.
It would be pretty cool.
I wouldn't mind.
Whatever you do, guys.
Yeah, I won't stand in your way.
Yeah. Other than that, is there anything we maybe didn't bring up that you want to get out there, Brian?
What else you got?
Is that not enough?
It's an hour already. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
In some circles, I have the nickname of the preacher. So you give me the mic and let me get on a sermon. Well, it's kind of hard to shut me up, but you guys have been very accommodating. It's cool to be back for the third time, especially talking about something which can be as mundane as safety.
Sure.
And being able to make an impact. I love that. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Well, your passion for words is very obvious. And just, the way you present safety is a game changer.
It really 100%. Is. Really is. It's 100%. Been a big benefit for me personally and our organization. So I definitely thank you for
definitely has impacted a lot of lives that I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Okay, we ask it every time. You mentioned it before.
Probably twice before.
Probably have it twice before.
Maybe you have a third one.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Yeah, so I mentioned it at the beginning. I'll circle back around to it. Again, what's said isn't half as important as what's heard. I think if we focus more on what the other person's hearing, things change.
Do you have a quick, example or the one that, I think you said before of how it,
my son, his story in the safety book, but I sent him after a Phillips screwdriver. He's just a little guy, helping me out with a project at home, and 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes, and I got frustrated and went looking for him, had my tools out all over the floor, and I asked him, son, what are you doing, man? You're supposed to be helping me. And he looked up and said, Dad, none of these screwdrivers say Phillips on them.
Is that the perfect story?
Right.
Yeah.
That is so applicable to so many different things. I love that. Well, hey, Brian, thanks again, man.
I appreciate everything. It's been great.
Yep. It's an honor every time you're on. And
likewise.
We appreciate you taking the time and, sharing your passion about safety. This is awesome.
No, pleasure's mine, guys. Thank you.
All right. Adding value, making friends.
I've checked that box.
We've done that one once again. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. Brian Owens, I'm Gone, available not everywhere yet.
But coming.
Yeah.
And there's new music coming too, is my understanding.
Stick out for that.
Until next time, everyone, a couple of my takeaways. Listening is different than hearing. Don't be swayed. Don't be selfish when it comes to safety. Let your roots intertangle with those around you. And most importantly, as always, be safe and healthy. There'll be some music here, I promise.
You're crying for the first time. You're dying for the first time. Yeah.